So Concord is not returning. It is official at this point. You know, we actually thought that with some things going on behind the scenes, we thought Concord was going to return. We had this whole situation where if you looked on Steam, you saw some updates that was going on with Concord after it was canned and everybody got their money back. But there's I think the studio leader or something like that, I don't know who it is. I didn't look at it. I just heard over the wire that Concord's not coming back. Firewalk Studios are done, and that's pretty much a wrap. Let me give my thoughts and opinions on this. So, as I go into this, please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year. You guys have absolutely been awesome watching the videos. I really appreciate you guys. Talk about gaming and everything under the umbrella. So if you decided to click on this video, I also appreciate it. Let's get right into this. I thought Concord was going to return because I really wanted to see what changes they made. I thought it would have been an interesting and teachable moment to see where a game that's so controversial and has so many polarizing situations going on with it, for lack of a better term, and see if they would have changed some of that stuff or if they would have doubled down on it. Because it was a really big deal when some people saw some of the pronoun stuff and some of the way that some of the characters looked and what they were trying to push, and some things they did pull back, which was tagged on the Steam page, and they took some stuff off. People kind of thought, okay, are they going to change some stuff if they bring it back outside of this entire, free to play stuff, which, I never really thought it was going to be free to play, which would have been a good idea. But they had too much money invested in this. I think at somewhere between $200 and $400 million invested in this game. So going free to play probably would have worked, but it was too risky, and they felt like it was too risky at the end of the day to actually have this game continue to go. So they finally shut everything down completely after reconsidering, and they're going to get rid of Firewalk Studios now. I don't have nothing against this game or the studios per se. I think the studio could have done something great if they would have just stuck to actually making a game instead of making a statement. And a lot of these games are going through that now. Now you're starting to see things about that new Dragon Age game. And, you saw Dustborn, and you see all these other games, the old, and I always go back to that reboot of Saints Row. That was another one. A lot of these games are trying to make statements instead of making great memories. And I think that's the problem with, the direction of games, not for the most part, but in some cases. Sony was just one of the bigger companies that actually, suffered, the worst out of it, and I think with them, going this route is a good thing at the end of the day, even though I really was interested and kind of nosy to see what they were going to do. But I don't see anything that says that they're going to actually make it better for the gamer. They're already still talking about, I think it was in that statement, it's someone on Twitter, I can't even remember the name of the person who did it. I know he's a big guy or big wig up there in the gaming space involving Concord, but they even said that they're going to continue to try to do something for live services. Like, if you're going to do a live service game, I said this before, go with MAG. You see this game down here? MAG, you can make a game like that and everybody will like it. You can build off of something of that concept and would be great. It's really unfortunate that they continue to go down this route and try to make money and take money out of our pockets instead of making great experiences. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that there are not any out there, because there are some new games out there that are still making great games and they're still doing things, they kind of tone the line at the same time. But you can find a great, game here and there to this day. But it's just too many that's going that route to where they're just trying to make, they're just trying to do too much. I talked about this on one of my last videos where the AAA companies, and I think it was like the director or the big boss of Ori and the Blind Forest, he said AAA games are just, they're doing way too much and they can't survive under this. They got too many hands in the pot, and gaming and AAA games were better when you did have a situation with, let's say, for instance, when Halo started, or when I talked about these other companies that had maybe 5 to 20 people working on a game and you saw how beautiful those games came out. Like I said, Halo, God of War, even, I think Forza was at one time was a small, entity. All the Wolfenstein. I remember the story of Wolfenstein, the story of Doom. These companies or these games, like id Software, they had like these really small group of people, and it ended up turning out to be, a beautiful masterpiece that these guys end up making. Now, some of these games aren't even being made anymore, or some of them are made, but they're like corporatized. I just talked about Prince of Persia, and I still haven't played. I need to play this game. I just talked about this, where a small company or a small group of guys made this game, and this game is being, they can't make a sequel to that. So it's a really big problem when you have these bigger companies trying to make these games and make a lot of money out of them, trying to put $200, $300, $400 million in a game, and they want to double and triple that for their investors, where in some cases, I'm going to be honest with you guys, gaming nowadays with the technology that we got, you can make a game off of like a couple of $1,000s with the technology we have nowadays. And if that game does well, you can 10x, in some cases 20x, and to be honest, 50x your money, depending on how well you make that game to just be fun for the masses, that could create a memory for the masses. Do you remember, like, now I'll talk about this on the back end of this video as well, the 6th and 7th generation, I don't know what the budgets of those games were, but I know they weren't this big. And a lot of these guys, it was a much smaller studio, probably a tenth of what they had. And they created money off of these games. And the games got so big. So when you look at a God of War 1 compared to God of War Ragnarok, not saying that the one game's better than the other. I do prefer the original God of War series in their format. But when you look at it now some of these games have to recoup so much money to even break even. But see, back then it wasn't like that. At the end of the day, I look at it like this. These companies need to start listening to what the gamers want. And that at the end of the day, it's very frustrating because a lot of these companies that are making these titles, they kind of don't do it, even if they don't even put messaging in the game. Some of these games just don't listen to what they're, what the gamers want. And they just put stuff out there. And the first thing they're trying to think about is taking money out your pockets through monetization. Now, I heard the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 was actually a pretty good game campaign-wise. And I will be checking that out because I got it on Game Pass. And that's the type of stuff that we wanted. You get a good campaign that will satisfy you offline, and then you go to the online aspect, and then you would want to add money into the great service they provided, whether it be a good campaign and a good online as well. This is why Battlefield 4 was extremely successful. And you look at everything after Battlefield 4, what do you have? Battlefield 4 had a pretty decent campaign. It was pretty good. And the online was absolutely great. And I'm going to be honest, I can't think of another Call of Duty Battlefield that actually followed that format. Nowadays, you look at your first-person shooters in general. Killzone has been going for 10 years, and they just said that they're not going to resurrect that. That's another studio, Guerrilla Games. They just said they'd rather focus on Horizon, which is okay. But Killzone, I don't know too much about, could they resurrect the story or whatever, or change something? But those 4 games that came out, 5 games if you include the PSP game, or 6 if you, I think they got a Vita game as well. Those games are great. And I highly recommend you pick them up if you haven't. But you want to know something? Speaking of 6th and 7th generation and so on and so on, that's when the companies actually listen to the gamers. And you know what? There's a couple of games now that still listen to the gamers, whether for good or bad. And I think a lot of more companies need to just continue to listen to what they have, the people who are trying to get money from them, and you can make profits that way instead of trying to scheme on people or try to go through poor messaging in their games and try to get people to, or force people to watch or play their games. It's just really bad. And like I said, the 2 companies or the 2 entities that I really think, or I'll say the 2 companies that really are still listening to their customers, and it's not really popular, is the Madden community in the 2K football community. I mean 2K football, I'm sorry, 2K basketball community. For better or worse, you may think those games are terrible, but you know what those guys do? Whatever that their fan base wants, they put it in the game. And it's one of the reasons why I ran out of that entire sports side of games, especially compared to this generation. I'd rather play the 6 and 7 generation stuff because, it's just, to me, it's not catered to me. But one thing I will say, they listen to exactly what the fans want. If something's wrong with the game, they try to fix it. And sometimes it's not fixed for the sport side of things. It's more like the ultimate team side and my team type of stuff. But for the most part, the sports games in general, they really listen to their customers. And this is why you don't have this issue where some games aren't really being sold and they have to shut down studios. Madden is still selling pretty well. And I know people talk about the exclusive license, that could be a part of it, but people still play that game a lot. Whether if it is only for a couple of weeks. 2K, people still play 2K damn near all year round. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is right now. But I'm gonna get out of here, man. I said enough. But Firewalk Studios are out. Concord's not coming back. I would have just been really interested to see what they were gonna do, but it is what it is. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I'm gonna get up out of here. Maybe I'll talk more about that Madden 2K thing because I haven't talked about a sports title in a while, but they do listen. As much as people give grief for them and be mad, one thing you say, if something's wrong with the game, they go on Twitter or they go on X and talk about it, and they put patches and updates into those games. But get up out of here, y'all. I'm out. Peace.